Mental Health, Wellness, and Recovery. My name is Richard Weingarten, and I'll be your host for tonight's program. Our show tonight is about refugees and resettlement in the greater New Haven area. And to help refugees settle into this area, my guests tonight are Leslie Coons, who's health promoter at IRIS, and Federstvel Gamlavi, who is the healthcare coordinator at IRIS. IRIS stands for Integrated Refugee and Immigration Services. But before we hear from Leslie and Federstvel, I'd like to give you a few facts about the refugee situation in the world, the United States, and New Haven. Chris George, the executive director of IRIS, spoke about refugees in a public forum here in New Haven earlier this month. I heard Mr. George cite these figures. There are 23 million refugees in the world right now. Most of them want more than anything to return to their homes and their home countries. Only about 1% of the number of refugees are resettled. Until recently, the United States was a country that admitted the largest number of refugees. In 2015, under the Obama administration, the U.S. received 80,000 refugees. In 2017, the Trump administration admitted 57,000. In 2018, that figure has fallen to about 20,000. Mr. George said that there were about 200 refugee resettlement programs in the United States. Connecticut has 3 programs. Rhode Island has 1. Refugee resettlement is a public-private partnership between IRIS and the federal government. IRIS really does all the work in several areas. This includes education, ESL classes, schools for refugee children, fixing up apartments for the families, helping them find employment, and seeing to their health needs. The government provides a monthly living allowance and health care funding on Medicaid. In 2017, IRIS helped resettle 300 refugees. Prior to 2017, IRIS worked with between 500 and 600 refugees a year. This year, that number has dropped to about 200, according to Mr. George. IRIS has 2 main jobs, he said. Resettlement is number 1. Number 2 is educating the broader American public about the refugee situation in the world and welcoming people who are fleeing violence and political and religious persecution in their native countries. As you probably know, this is a long-standing American tradition to welcome these people into our country. I would like to introduce my first guest, Leslie Coons, the promoter of health at IRIS. Leslie, could you tell us a little bit about your job at IRIS?
Sure. So as health promoter, the main thing, what I do along with my colleague Federstvel and a small group of volunteers or interns that we have, we help acclimate our clients to the American healthcare system. And I'm sure you've had experience with our healthcare system. We all have.
It's somewhat complicated.
It's very complicated. So you can just imagine what it's like coming here, not speaking the language, not having the familiarity we do with transportation systems, with making appointments, with rushed folks on the telephone. There's a lot to learn. So what we do is we help teach them about the system. We help teach them how to take public transportation to get to appointments.
You teach them about punctuality?
Our time orientation.
It's different than most countries, isn't it?
It is. And that's, it's a big thing because we need to make sure our clients understand that. We don't want them to miss appointments because then it's months until they might be able to get it again.
You also give them a 3-day health orientation, don't you?
We do, yeah. So
we're going to talk about that later, but that's for later in the program. I want to turn the focus over to Federstvel agora. Federstvel, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your job at IRIS, and then I'd like to hear a little bit of your story, which is fascinating.
Thank you for inviting us tonight. I'm working as a healthcare coordinator at IRIS, and I call my first home when I came here.
You were an IRIS client, weren't you, when you first came here?
I was IRIS client, and I get so much help from them, and I learn from them. Also, after I done with my education, and try to came back to IRIS, and what I have, I try to, provide it to the client we have right now. As a healthcare coordinator, we try to, first of all, make a first appointment for the people who are just come to United States.
Yes.
And, complete the RHA, we call it Refugee Health Assessment. Then complete everything, send it to the public health, also helping them on, really basic things at home. Try to have a safe home, safe environment, how they can get to their appointment, as my colleague said. We try our best.
I think for some people that don't have cars, they'd have to take buses. Don't they have to take buses? And,
Yes.
How do you work the bus system in this country? That's kind of complicated too, I bet.
Yes, it's really, especially now they change it from letters to numbers. It's really hard. When they learn alphabet, it's easy. They can say B bus, C bus, M bus, but now they change it, especially in New Haven, to the numbers, like 243. It's a little complicated to teach, but we try our best. That's the good thing. We have amazing volunteer.
The volunteers go with them on the bus to teach them the way to go, where to get off, and what to look for, and so forth.
Yeah, sometimes volunteer, sometimes I go, sometimes Leslie goes. We all work together.
That's really interesting. Now, I'd like to hear a little bit of your story, because you said you came to the United States when you were 25.
Yes, when I came in, I was
Tell
like
us a little bit about
5.
Where you came from and your family, and a little bit of your story, because I think the people out there are going to really find it very fascinating. I certainly did.
Yes, I came in 2011, and with my mother. We were just 2 women at that time. We came from a Middle East country, then went to the Europe in a camp for 5 months, and then after that we came to United States. The first place we came was New Haven. I started my life from New Haven, and it's very interesting for me. The first night we went, and someone told us, here is your key, and this is your home. After long time living in the camp, and then heard, this is your home, that's something very interesting for me.
That must have been emotionally very powerful.
Always.
To have your own phone with your own kitchen, your own telephone, your own bedroom, right?
Yeah, especially IRIS at that time, try to provide meal from our countries. The first night we came here, someone cooked for the food from my country, and we saw it, was so excited to have food from my own country.
Yes.
And we enjoyed it together. It was hard at the beginning. The whole night, I remember with my mother, we just sit and cry. What we gonna do in this country? Then
let's see, if I'm not mistaken, you were a teacher back in the country you came from. And when you came, you actually had an education too, didn't you? Didn't you have a degree from a college in that Middle Eastern country where you were?
Yes, I got my bachelor degree from there. Then I had my own school there, because the country I was live, it was hard for the refugee to go to school. The country also was poor. They didn't have, to support other refugees. They didn't have enough money to support other refugees. I just had 12 years old. My father came to me and said, Federstvel, I went to the mosque and saw some girls are sitting corner and they would like to learn something. They had someone to teach them, but the guy left them because he said, I cannot support my life and I cannot do this anymore, volunteer. And I told them my daughter is volunteer and she can come. I said, what?
At 12 years old, you were teaching other people reading and writing and arithmetic?
Reading and writing, yes. I went there just to be there 1 week until they found out someone. But at the age of 12, I worked there until I left that country.
25 years, or
Yes.
13 years at that school.
Yes, 13 years.
Wow. And when you came to this country, did they honor your degree from the country you were at?
Unfortunately, no. I couldn't get my degree. When I came here, I had to start all over again. But I was, excited. I really wanted to get degree from here and continue. This is my goal, to get my Ph.D. one day from United States and show people, yes, women can do that if they want. And if they have opportunity, this is my goal, and I try to do it. one day soon.
You have a bachelor's from Southern, don't you?
I have a bachelor from my
And you've actually worked at Yale too, I think you said.
When I came here,
as an
actually,
interpreter, right?
my first job was tutoring at Yale with the language department. The second job I got, it was like working as a medical interpreter at Yale New Haven Hospital.
Okay.
Then now I'm working at IRIS as a healthcare coordinator, and also I'm teaching at University of New Haven.
Great. That's great. And what is your mother doing these days?
If she's not here, I cannot do anything. She loves to learn English.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately,
Is she taking English at the at a church here, the Church of the Redeemer? Don't they offer English classes?
they offer English classes, but the problem is I have two babies. My second baby just born 2 months ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Thank you. And she's taking care of my babies. You know, she loves to learn English. When I didn't have baby, she was the first one on the bus to go to the adult education or to, you know, other school or other places. IRIS provided English. Like, she was the first one always. After I have my baby, you know, and working, doing all other things, it wasn't hard. It wasn't easy for her to get to go to school again. Then she's at home. That's why I decided to do the program working for the women who are at home and cannot go out.
I see.
If you want, I can talk now or later.
Doesn't IRIS have classes like sewing groups for women and yoga and art classes? Talk a little about that, because the women tend to be at home, really. The men are mostly the workers, right?
Yeah.
And the kids go to school. So what has IRIS been doing to kind of make the women more comfortable and give them more of a social opportunity?
Yeah, which is, the social engagement is so important, especially when you talk about mental health issues. It's really important, and we work hard to help our clients become engaged as soon as possible. So it's, a lot of women do work. We certainly encourage them to work because if the rent is too high, there's a lot of bills to pay.
Right.
But
Let me just butt in here that the government pays for the rent for what, for 3 months, and then they're expected to pay it themselves?
Yeah, so it's a combination of government and private funding and donations. Yes, it's only about 3 to 4 months, and after that, the refugees are expected
to pay it themselves.
Yeah, and,
wow.
and it's really tough. So for the women especially that might be at home with small children or for whatever reason not working yet, we do always want to help encourage them to get involved. So yeah, we offer wellness programming. We have gardening, which is men and women. We have sewing. We've also offered sewing for men, which was
Really?
attended. Yeah. We have yoga. We have women's physical fitness.
Nice.
Yes, we have men's soccer.
Where does all this take place?
Either at IRIS or we have an off-site location too where we have our ESL classes. Yeah.
Okay. And does your mother take part in any of these women's groups?
Yeah, she loves the sewing class.
Sewing class.
Once a week, she tries to join it, but we try to manage our time and take her.
Tell me something. How did you meet your husband, and how did that happen?
I met my husband at the university in the country we were. We were like
Classmates?
kind of classmates.
Friends, maybe?
We didn't know each other, like we weren't friends. As I told you, I had my own school. We advertised to hire someone for teaching. And then he came in and he said, "Wow, are you my classmate? You're working here too?" And then I said, "If you're not telling my story, I'm working here and also studying at the university, then I can hire you." Then he said, "Okay, I'm not going to tell anyone." Then he started working with us. After a while, there was some other
When did
member.
he come over here? At the same time you did, or later? Or?
No, that was a long story. We just got married after 40 days. My case, we were in waiting list for many years, but after we got married, we were just seeing each other. We were married for 40 days. Then I came to United States, and he was at that country. It takes I should say, thanks IRIS, it takes 2 years until we apply.